The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, he served 12 years in the Secret Service, first as a member of the detail that protected President George W. Bush, and more recently on the team that protects President Obama. But he left that agency and is now running for Congress as a Republican, saying the fog of scandal in the Obama administration compelled him to change paths. Dan Bongino joins me now live. Dan, great to see you. Thank you for your service.
Good to see you, too. Thank you.
So this is so rare because Secret Service agents don't talk. We've been saying that all show. Yeah. And already you've gotten pushback from other Secret Service agents saying this guy just wants to draw attention to himself. First of all, why are you speaking out?
Yeah, well, that's an easy out, but some of those same guys are probably some of the same guys complaining about the status of where we are now as a country. You know, Megan, we're in a near lawless administration right now. They've really ignored the Constitution. It's almost, he's become like a messianic figure, too, to some people on the left who just refuse to criticize this administration, even though the scandals are right in front of you and I can see them clearly. We're lost in them.
And I know you say that there are scandals people don't even know about. What does that mean?
Well, you have a scandal within the EPA where they were basically waiving FOIA it's very expensive to FOIA records.
But you're talking about publicly known things. I mean, I'm asking you about your time as a Secret Service agent. Is that what you were referring to, that you observed things behind the scenes that are scandalous?
No, and I'm very careful. There is an oath there to not give out private conversations and things of that sort. But the administration they surround themselves with acolytes and newer people who haven't really been involved in politics before, unlike prior administrations, which bring in people who've served before. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really served to insulate the president from any criticism. And, you know, you have to ask yourself at some point, we're in a lot of trouble. You know, what are you doing as a country? Mm-hmm. Are you going to put down the remote and stop watching, you know, the news and start creating news for a better tomorrow, or what?
Let me ask you this, though, and I know you can't give out personal conversations you've heard and so on, and I respect that. Having observed the family, having observed the man, do you believe President Obama is a good man?
I do. He is a good guy. He's always very
you
decent.
Believe he's an honest man?
Well, politically or personally? I mean, personally, he's always been very nice to me, and his family was terrific to me. They were always wonderful to me, and I would never say anything otherwise. But politically, I mean, can we argue with the fact that he's deceived America at this point? I mean, he said if you like your plan, you can keep your plan, period. And that's just one.
Do you believe that he's a different kind of politician, as he promised he would be when he ran?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hope and change, where did that go? And again, you have him using government now as a weapon against the American people. This is really unprecedented.
In the observations you had of President George Bush versus President Obama, and I want to correct what I said earlier, George Bush's approval rating was lower than President Obama's is at this point in his term. The point was that they're narrowing, they're getting closer. But in your observations of both men, what are the differences?
Yeah, well, President Bush really, he would surround himself with people who would tell him what he didn't want to hear. And I've got political differences with him as well. I'm not one of these toe-the-line Republicans. A lot of Republicans don't like me either for that reason. But he would surround himself with people, President Clinton too, that would tell him exactly what he didn't need to hear, needed to hear but didn't want to hear. The president doesn't do that. He surrounds himself with like this farm team of acolytes that are constantly, like I said, he's like a messianic figure. Mm-hmm. And no matter how bad it gets, I'm sure people are telling him right now, oh, no, it's not that bad with Obamacare. Meanwhile, anyone with their finger on the pulse of the American people, with any, even the normal IQ, can figure out that we're in a really bad place right now, Megan.
And you say that if there was one event that helped make up your mind to leave, the most visceral was the Obamacare debate. The public has no idea how many deals were cut on that. That's something you observed in your role as a Secret Service agent?
People selling out left and right. And the government's become a cesspool of just cronies and insiders and acolytes. And I get it. I mean, I'm not an idealist, but the idea of representative government is really just being flushed away. And you have to ask yourself, you know, are you going to do something to fix it, or are you just going to sit here and watch?
Thank you for being here, sir.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you. All the best to you.
Thanks a lot.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.